What's the first word that pops into your head when you hear the name Kamala Harris?
Liar. It'd be good for us to have a black woman as president for the first time in history.
Yeah.
But my vote's kind of still on Trump.
Look, man, the kids don't lie. The parents of conservatives are far different than the parents of leftists. Let me just say this. I've said you'll hear more of it in the video, but it's a difference between teaching your kids or being an example for your kids in politics coming from a position of hate versus a position of loving the country. And we can see a clear difference between left and right. Wait till you see the film. What's going on, y'all? A lot of people are going to get this book. And I'm glad. Y'all heard me talk about the book. It's an amazing book, Experiencing the American Dream. This is the perfect book to read for the people that love my stuff. The people that watch me are all patriotic Americans, and we are all capitalists, and people need to understand the connection between your finances and the American dream. Mark Matson wrote this book. I know him personally. He's an incredible guy. And literally, me and my wife took the American Dream Experience, which is a 2-day course, and it literally changed our lives. I went into it thinking that, I like Mark. He my homie. You know what I'm saying? I go take the class. I take the class. See what he talking about. I was blown away. And a lot of what is explained in American Dream class is associated in this book. So Mark talks about his story, which is incredible, but he also speaks about things that are connecting you and the way you invest. The most incredible book you're going to read this year. Go get you one. Link is in the description section. Y'all know what to do. Let's get into this. Ladies and gentlemen, the kids don't lie. At first, when I saw this, I was like, I'm not making a video about it. It's a bunch of kids saying they like Trump or they like Biden or they like Kamala, whatever. It's a moot point. I don't even know why they did this. Then I actually looked at it and I said, well, wait a minute. They did a research project where they spoke to the kids and they came up with a conclusion that which kids are a lot more aggressive in politics, which means negatively aggressive, versus those that have more of an explanation. Now, I haven't watched all the kids. I've seen some of the kids, and the two Trump supporters that I saw explain why they support Trump seems to be a little more reasonable. Like, I support the guy. I'm not hateful against the other person. But then the two kids that I saw that didn't like Trump, they were actually hateful against Trump and believe in false propaganda. But let's watch all of them and see if all of them were that same case, and then we'll see at the end. CNN actually did a research analysis at the end, and we'll watch that as well. Roll the clip.
Overall,
I mean, they did it throughout the video, but they concluded at the end. Roll it.
the biggest finding, the children in the study were polarized, with what researchers called more extreme responses from the blue state kids than the red state kids.
Extremist.
Donald Trump, he did bad things. He's like Hitler.
Think about that. Hold on. I need to go back to that kid.
Trump, he did bad things. He's like Hitler.
He only wanted to be president so that he can just control everybody.
Trump is supporting January 6th now. I remember that January 6th was a bunch of Republicans believing Trump. I feel like they thought Trump was a god. People got arrested. I think one officer died afterwards. That was a big day.
The study found that these Democrat-leaning kids were about 9 times more likely to express negative emotions about Donald Trump than Republican-leaning kids were about Kamala Harris. Why might that be? Psychologist Ashley Landrum has some ideas.
So Donald Trump is a very polarizing figure, and it's very possible that the kids are reacting to their parents reacting to Donald Trump being a very different kind of political figure than what we've seen before. So do the red state kids hold as strong of attitudes? Well, not when we're talking about Kamala Harris. In part, that could be because they don't know that much about her.
Or because we don't hate them. We don't express vitriol against them. That's I mean, come on, you should maybe they didn't cut her full statement, but it's because when I tell my kid and I talk to my kid about political stuff, I don't say, Kamala Harris is literally Hitler. I'm not hyperbolic. And the things that I say and believe is common sense, so my son can see it. I don't have to make up a complete lie about somebody. They have to lie about Trump. They have to. He's Hitler. Somebody died on January 6th, a police officer. As a result of January 6th is pretty much what the kid was saying. He wanted to be president so he can control everybody. That's insane for a parent to be saying that to a kid because it adds zero value to the conversation. Roll the clip.
Andrew was also curious about how kids saw their peers in the political divide.
So, do you think that the kids that live in those two houses would be friends with each other?
They can.
They can?
There's no law breaking that.
It doesn't matter if you are different by skin color, or it doesn't matter if you are different by people, you can still be friends.
The study found that Republican-leaning kids were more open to visiting a Democrat-supporting household. The Democrat-leaning kids were about 5 times more likely to say they would not want to go to a pro-Trump house.
Would they be okay with you going over to somebody's house who is really supportive of President Trump?
No,
No? And why not?
because they know that he's not like black people, so they will not be happy to see me.
Would your family let you go over to somebody's house who's really supportive of Donald Trump?
No.
No, they wouldn't.
No.
And why not?
Because, like, my mom and dad don't like Donald Trump at all. Not a single bit.
Would you be okay going over to somebody's house whose family really likes Kamala Harris?
I think it'd be fine. It's just about the personality of the people.
Would your family be okay if you went over to somebody's house who really liked Donald Trump?
If I want to be real over here, so if I just went over there, I imagine be a good old argument or a fight, maybe like a food fight or something.
So that's a little quick clip. Yeah, I'm sure it was more to it, but that's a little clip. We just want to show a quick foundational point here. It's kind of sad that this is the reality, but we tell people all the time that the people on the left have Trump derangement syndrome. They're deranged.
What?
Many people don't just dislike Trump, right? They don't just dislike Trump. The people that dislike Trump, they despise him. They willing to hate him over their own life, their own finances, their own well-being. They rather die and hate Trump than to give him a pass or at least fairly hear him out and live. I promise you. And so that's reflective on the kids. The kids say it's about the person. It's not about the other kids are like, no, that's fine. I mean, nobody cares about that. The same racism and negative things that they say we do, they are the ones doing it. You would think, listening to them, that we raise our kids to be hateful and we don't like that person and we don't like gays and we don't like this and that. We don't teach our kids that stuff. Most of us don't. And you don't have to like what a person do. You still should love and respect them because people are people. And some people change. And if you're going to build your whole persona or your whole dislike of a person and then they change, now you look like a fool. So you love the person, you hate the sin. You love the person, you take away the person from the actions. You love the person, you can hate the action. It's hard to do that sometimes, but it's necessary in order to see people like God sees us. Because a person can offend you, you can still love them because you know something wrong with them. And you love them and you can be patient with them, but you hate what they did. You can pray for them, and when they change and ask for forgiveness, it's easier to forgive when you love the person and hate what they did. Because then they change what they do, their patterns, and you already love them. So it's easy to welcome back into the fold. And I'm not saying that's easy because there's a whole bunch of people I'm struggling with right now, right as we speak. I have to pray about it all the time. I want to throw them off a cliff. But our kids aren't like their kids. And this is a famous clip that everybody's passing around. Let me play it.
What's the first word that pops into your head when you hear the name Kamala Harris?
Liar.
It'd be good for us to have a black woman as president for the first time in history.
Yeah.
But my vote's kind of still on Trump.
And some of this is the media's fault, if I didn't mention that. The media lies about Trump, make him out to be a bad person. Their parents have Trump derangement syndrome, which makes them think that Trump households are like a bunch of crazy lunatics that just hate America. And it's sad. But I think that this little survey, thanks to Fox, for CNN for doing it, I bet if Fox News did it, it'd have been better. But thanks to CNN for doing it, because it exposed you guys. You guys are pushing the propaganda that makes these kids feel this way. And their parents get all crazy and loopy. I'm going to say this before I get off here. Donald Trump is not a racist. He's not a racist. That's the most asinine thing I could ever. Is he racially insensitive at times? Yeah, of course. Everybody that don't belong to a certain racial culture may be racially insensitive. I don't live with Hispanics, so I don't know Hispanic culture as much. So I may say some stuff that offends somebody Hispanic. Maybe calling somebody a Mexican. You know what I mean? And they're like, I'm Mexican. I'm not, you don't call me a Mexican. I'm like, I don't know. Maybe that offend somebody. If I was Mexican or if I was in a Hispanic household, I would know what the do's and don'ts are in the culture. But if I grew up around Hispanic people, Mexican people, then I would already know that. Then I would be a person that can communicate across racial lines. Just like black folks, man, there's certain things black people do and say and how we act growing up that's very similar to one another all over the country. And you come in a house, you come into a black barbecue or a family, cookout or something, or family event, and you white and you ain't never been around black people, stuff that you do is going to be weird. And the same thing about black people. Like, you think you'll go to a white person's house, generally speaking, and you all hip-hopped out. People are going to be looking at you like, that's kind of weird. They say, hey, Brandon, you have a song request? And you go play Plies or somebody, and these white people are like, oh, I never heard of that person before. Did that mean that you racist against white people? No, that just means that there's a cultural difference, generally speaking. That doesn't cover everybody. There's white people that love rap music. But generally speaking, it's like a white person come over your house and they want to listen to Carrie Job. And you're like, I ain't never heard of Carrie Job, which is she's a Christian artist. I have, because I'm versed in it. But a lot of black people don't listen to white Christian music. They listen to gospel music. And so you go play some Carrie Job song at a black church event, people gonna be like, what is this person playing over here? And the same thing with white people. Me and my wife talk about this all the time. You go play Bishop Paul Morton crying on getting all emotional and crying on a song at the top of his lungs. White people are like, they doing too much. You know what I'm saying? It's like if you go to a black church and a white church. I remember the first time I went to a white church, I was bored out of my mind. I said, ain't nobody amening or nothing. Ain't nobody even said nothing. They said, oh, dang, that church went over fast. They didn't even have church. We just got here. We still getting out already? Man, these songs are just basic. The preacher ain't even hooping. Because I grew up in a tradition where the pastor is, ha, and you heard me right. Ha. And then people come to the church ain't never been a part of that would be like, what black people be doing too much? You get Sister So-and-so on there singing her heart out from the diaphragm. And people are like, y'all doing too, playing the guitar and the bass and playing the organ, and that black people do that and white people typically don't do that. And if you switch churches or you do stuff like that, you'll be like, this is weird. Going back to the fact of Donald Trump possibly being racially insensitive. But that don't mean he's a racist. He loved black people. He's done a lot for black people. He'll do more for black people if they voted for him, I would argue. It's hard for him to put all his eggs on the black people, and they gonna vote for these dummies over here. Anyway, love y'all. Bye.